recording, then it's okay. So after Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, you should go to the title slide where you have mentioned your name along with your supervisor's name and the title of today's presentation, right? Okay, so today's topic of discussion is hemoglobinopathies with a special emphasis on thalassemias and a closer look to get them explored. I am Dr. Fatma Jalal Chaudhary and I am an MPhil graduate, MPhil scholar here with you. And I am going to present the same topic under the kind supervision of Professor Dr. Sara Afzal. As in the very first slide, you can see the red blood cells from a person with the sickle cell disease, which is basically a hemoglobinopathy. It illustrates the abnormal shape of some of the red blood cells as found in sickle cell disease. So, what are the learning outlines for today's topic? Introduction to the hemoglobinopathies, introduction to thalassemias, hemoglobin functions, hemoglobin structural biology, classification of hemoglobinopathies, diagnostic modalities, epidemiological trends and variations for the thalassemias, management and treatment options for the thalassemias, recent updates so far, MCQs, and an open forum discussion. So, learning objectives at the end of the presentation, the participants should at least be able to understand hemoglobinopathies, the thalassemias, treatment modalities so far available, and newer trends. As you all must be knowing that hemoglobinopathies are a specialty from the hematology section. Symptoms for any of the hemoglobinopathy occurred could be chronic anemia. The complications so far are enlarged spleen, iron overload, and death. Usual onset is during the fetal development or very early infancy. Now, hemoglobinopathy is basically the medical term for a group of inherited blood disorders. As we all know that when a person is born, a baby is born, he must have the functioning genes or the regulating system behind that for proper functioning of any of the systems around. So hemoglobinopathy is basically an inherited blood disorder. That means if a fetus is born, he is born with it. So hemoglobin, what it is, it's a protein part of the red blood cells. As you know, it's heme and globin. The globin part is the protein one, which consists of alpha chains and the beta chains. They are generally single gene disorders, hemoglobinopathies, and they would present themselves as autosomal recessive traits. So it's a schematic representation of a hemoglobin molecule. As you all can see that alpha and beta globin chain structures of the heme molecule of the hemoglobin is depicted here. It consists of all the hemoglobinopathies. We can divide them into two main groups: abnormal structural hemoglobin variants, which are caused by mutations in a hemoglobin chain, or number B, thalassemias, which are caused by underproduction of otherwise normal hemoglobin molecules. Now, structural hemoglobin variants in the thalassemias could be hemoglobin S, hemoglobin E, and hemoglobin C. The main types of thalassemias, depending upon the structural variations, are alpha thalassemias and beta thalassemias. Newer defined modality is delta thalassemia. Now, classification of hemoglobinopathies, qualitatively, they could be sickle cell disorders in which the unstable hemoglobin variant is there. There might be a change in oxygen affinity. Quantitatively, they could be classified into alpha, beta, delta, or sometimes all of the together, or two of the basically together. Now, peripheral blood film from a person with delta beta thalassemia, as you can see, there are new cells coming in. Now, thalassemias also belong to the hematology department. Symptoms are feeling tired, pale skin, enlarged spleen, yellowish skin, and dark urine. Causes, as discussed earlier, are exclusively genetic autosomal recessive traits. Diagnostic modalities available are blood tests and genetic tests. Thalassemias are a group of inherited blood disorders that manifest as the production of reduced or zero quantities of hemoglobin. So there could be two of the spectrum. Either it could be a reduced one or no presence of hemoglobin at all. Symptoms depend upon largely the type of thalassemia and can vary from none to severe, including the death. Often there is mild to severe anemia. There would be low red blood cells or hemoglobin, as thalassemia can affect the production of red blood cells, and it can also affect how long the red blood cells live. Now, symptoms include tiredness, pallor, bone symptoms, as in large spleen, jaundice, pulmonary hypertension, and dark urine. Children's growth and development may be slower than normal. Now, what's the epidemiological trends in 2021? The Global Burden of Disease Survey found that about 1.31 million people worldwide have severe thalassemia. While thalassemia trait occurs in 358 million people, it causes around 11,100 deaths per annum. It is slightly more prevalent in males than in females. It is most common among people of Greek, Italian, or Southeast Asian regions. The world distribution of hemoglobinopathies overlapping the geographic distribution of malaria is depicted here, which would be discussed in the upcoming slides. Those who have the minor degrees of thalassemia in common with those who have sickle cell trait have some protection against malaria. So frequencies are given in the table. Etymology and synonyms. The word thalassemia derives from the Greek thalas, the sea, and the Greek compound stem emia from hema or the blood. It was coined because the condition called Mediterranean anemia was renamed thalassemia major once the genetics were better understood. So the word thalassemia was first used in 1932. Hemoglobin structural biology, as you can see in the traits chart, that it's an inherited disorder, and a normal human hemoglobin are tetrameric proteins. They are composed of two pairs of globin chains, each of which contains one alpha-like chain and one beta-like chain. Each globin chain is associated with an iron-containing heme molecular compound. So specific alpha and beta-like chains that are incorporated into the hemoglobins are highly regulated during development. So depending upon the time of presentation, we have four types of hemoglobins. They are embryonic hemoglobins, the fetal hemoglobins, adult hemoglobins, or hemoglobin A2. Symptoms depend on the type and severity of thalassemia. Carriers of thalassemia genes may have no symptoms. For this class, we would like to classify them under thalassemia minor or very mild symptoms with occasional crisis, which is thalassemia intermedia. Individuals who are homozygous for mutations have severe and life-threatening symptoms, so classified under thalassemia majors. Inheritance by the female carrier, as you must be knowing, in the Great Britain's royal family from Queen Victoria onwards. Alpha thalassemia major is generally fatal to the unborn child, as the absence of alpha globin means that zero functional hemoglobin is produced during gestation. Unmatched gamma globin chains cluster to form hemoglobin BARTs, which is H hemoglobin, which is ineffective at transporting oxygen. In this very situation, a fetus in utero will develop hydrops fetalis, a severe form of edema which can be detected on prenatal ultrasound. The child would normally die before or shortly after birth, unless intrauterine blood transfusions are performed. Less severe alpha thalassemias may affect the growth and development of the fetus. Now these are the symptoms in large spleen profile of a 10 years old child. As you can see the specific facies here. Now, beta thalassemia symptoms typically begin to show during the first 6 months of life. If thalassemia is untreated or undetected in the infant, this can lead to developmental issues such as slowed growth, delayed puberty, bone abnormalities, and intellectual impairments. Now, what are the general features observed in both of the thalassemias? More generally, impaired production of hemoglobin causes anemia, resulting in tiredness and a general lack of energy. Shortness of breath would be there, rapid or irregular heartbeats, dizziness, pale skin, yellowing of the skin and eyes, which is jaundice. In thalassemia, ineffective erythropoiesis causes the bone marrow to expand. Bone marrow expansion can lead to abnormal bone structures, particularly in the skull and face. Expansion of the bone marrow in the developing child leads to a distinctive facial shape, often referred to as chipmunk facies, or other skeletal changes include osteoporosis, growth retardation, and malformation of the spine. General features and symptoms get too much iron in their bodies because either of the destruction ongoing of the cells or excessive blood transfusions. Excess iron is not excreted but forms toxic non-transferrin bound iron. This leads to organ damage, potentially affecting the heart, liver, endocrine system, bones, and spleen. Symptoms in all of these cases would include an irregular heartbeat, cardiomyopathy, cirrhosis of the liver, hypothyroidism, delayed puberty, and fertility problems. Brittle and deformed bones and an enlarged spleen, immune function gets compromised. Now, what is the pathophysiology ongoing behind all of these symptoms? Hemoglobin is a protein, as we have discussed, containing iron, which transports oxygen. Now, healthy level of hemoglobin for men is 13.2 to 16.6, and for women it's 11.6 to 15 grams per deciliters. Normal adult hemoglobin or hemoglobin A is composed of 4 protein chains, 2 alpha and 2 beta globin chains, which are arranged as the heterotetramers. In thalassemia, patients have defects in the non-coding region of either the alpha or beta globin chains, which causes ineffective production of normal alpha or beta globin chains. This can lead to further ineffective erythropoiesis, premature red blood cells destruction, and anemia. The thalassemias are classified according to which chain of the hemoglobin molecule is affected. Now, evolutionary advantage, which is so far historically being documented, is having a mild form of alpha thalassemia has been demonstrated to protect against malaria and thus can be an advantage in malaria endemic areas, thus conferring a selective survival advantage on carriers, which are known as heterozygotes. Now, severity of alpha thalassemia, as you can see, types of alpha thalassemias and the symptoms. If it's a silent carrier, there would be no symptom. Alpha thalassemia trait present, it would be minor anemia. Hemoglobin H disease, mild to moderate anemia and may lead normal life. Hemoglobin H or Bart's hydrops death usually occurs in utero or at birth. Now, beta thalassemia traits, the situation of both the alleles as per the pathophysiology mechanism is concerned determines the clinical picture. Beta thalassemia major or Mediterranean anemia or Cooley's anemia is caused by beta naught or beta naught genotype. So, a beta thalassemia intermedia is caused by this much of the gene variation. Beta thalassemia minor also results to genotype of this type. Only one of the two beta globin alleles containing a mutation, so beta chain production is not terribly compromised and patients may be relatively asymptomatic in beta thalassemia minor. So how are we going to diagnose a case of thalassemia? Prenatal and newborn screening is one step. With the prenatal screening questionnaire, you can go through the family history and look for the presence of genes there. During pregnancy, genetic testing can be done on samples taken of fetal blood, of amniotic fluid, or chorionic villus sampling. A routine heel prick test, in which a small sample of blood is collected a few days after birth, can detect some forms of hemoglobinopathies. Now, diagnostic tests in the adult life is specifically CBC, in which we are to see the Menser index. In the Menser index, we are going to see MCV divided by the number of RBCs. It can be calculated from a CBC report. Peripheral blood smear is to be looked for serum iron and serum ferritin levels. Now, what the exact diagnosis would be done through hemoglobin electrophoresis is the gold standard. High performance liquid chromatography, DNA analysis through PCR, and next generation sequencing genes are the newer modalities. Now, how are we going to manage a case of thalassemia or hemoglobinopathy? Patients with thalassemia traits, thalassemia minor, or non-transfusion dependent thalassemia may not require medical or follow-up care after the initial diagnosis is made. Whereas in the severe forms of thalassemias, which are thalassemia minor or transfusion dependent thalassemias, the three principal treatments are there: red blood cells transfusions to relieve anemia, iron chelation to mitigate the side effects of the transfusion, and ongoing red cell destruction, folic acid supplementation to encourage the growth of the new blood cells. So other treatment modalities are luspatercept. It's a medication recently being introduced. Hydroxyureas to combat the symptoms. Osteoporosis can be done with the oral or IV bisphosphonates and zinc supplements. Removal of the spleen in severe cases of hypersplenism. Transplantation and gene therapy, in which the hematopoietic stem cell transplantation is one modality. Gene therapy is also there. So prevention could be done if any of these modalities are being employed within the fetal period, or if we know the family history. Now, what is the history of thalassemia? Rudolf von Jacques in 1889 first described anemia leukemic infantum as a form of chronic anemia. The first definitive identification of a thalassemia case was in 1925 by Thomas Benton Cooley. Hence the name Cooley's anemia. Now, coming on to our recent updates, this is Hematology Oncology Associates of CNY. Treatment of thalassemia are discussed here. Treatments for thalassemia depend on the type and severity of the disorder. People who are carrier or who have alpha or beta thalassemia trait have mild or no symptoms. They'll likely need little or no treatment. Doctors use three standard treatments for moderate and severe forms of thalassemias. These treatments include blood transfusions, iron chelation, therapy, and folic acid supplements. Other treatments have been developed or are being tested, but they are used much less often. Standard treatments as described here are blood transfusions, iron chelation therapy. Iron chelation therapy, to discuss further, is the deferoxamine. Is a liquid medicine that's given slowly under the skin, usually with a small portable pump used overnight. This therapy takes time and can be mildly painful. Side effects include problems with vision and hearing. So, folic acid supplements, as you all know, is a B vitamin that helps build healthy red blood cells. Other treatment modalities are blood and marrow stem cell transplants. Possible future treatments, which are mentioned here, researchers are working to find new treatments for thalassemias. For example, it might be possible someday to insert a normal hemoglobin gene into stem cells in bone marrow. This will allow people who have thalassemias to make their own healthy red blood cells and hemoglobin. Researchers also are studying ways to trigger a patient's ability to make fetal hemoglobin after birth. This type of hemoglobin is found in fetuses and newborns. After birth, the body switches to making adult hemoglobin. As we all know, making more fetal hemoglobin might make up for the lack of the healthy adult hemoglobin. Now, this is another article with a press release by the Casgevy, which is an hexaagglomogene autotemcel is based on the innovative gene editing tool CRISPR, which won its inventors the Nobel Prize in 2020. MHRA authorizes world first gene therapy that aims to cure sickle cell disease and transfusion dependent beta thalassemia. So, a new treatment for sickle cell disease and transfusion dependent beta thalassemia has been authorized by the Medicine and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, which is MHRA, for patients age 12 and over after a rigorous assessment of its safety, quality, and effectiveness. The first medicine to be licensed that uses the innovative gene mechanism, that is the CRISPR technology, for which its inventors were awarded the Nobel Prize. So, Casgevy is designed to work by editing the faulty gene in a patient's bone marrow stem cells so that the body produces functioning hemoglobin. To do this, stem cells are taken out of the bone marrow, edited in a laboratory, and then infused back into the patient, after which the results have the potential to be lifelong. Now, clinical commissioning policy, allogenic hematopoietic stem cell transplantation for adult transfusion-dependent thalassemia. This is another article which is being documented first in 10th November 2023. So it says that allogenic hematopoietic stem cell transplantation is recommended to be available as a routine commissioning treatment option for adults with transfusion-dependent thalassemias. Now coming on to our MCQ session. MCQ number 1, it's a 4-year-old child with a pallor, jaundice, and hepatosplenomegaly is diagnosed with beta thalassemia major. His hemoglobin level is 6.2 grams per deciliter, and peripheral smear shows microcytic hypochromic anemia with target cells. What is the most appropriate next step in the management? Start oral iron therapy, perform a bone marrow biopsy, begin a regular blood transfusion, prescribe the folic acid supplementations only, or give anti-chelating agents. Answer is basically C. We have to look for the dangerously low 6.2 grams per deciliter levels of hemoglobin. So we have to begin approximately the next management step and most appropriate one is to begin the regular blood transfusions. MCQ number 2, a 25 years old woman with beta thalassemia minor is planning pregnancy. Her fiance's hemoglobin electrophoresis is pending. What is the most crucial step before conception? Start iron supplementation, perform genetic counseling and partner testing, initiate regular blood transfusions, proceed with pregnancy without concerns, or start electrophoresis of the husband. Yeah, exactly. The answer is B, because genetic counseling in these cases is very important. MCQ number 3, a 6 years old boy with beta thalassemia major has been receiving regular transfusions. He now has skin and darkening, diabetes, and heart dysfunction. What is the most likely underlying cause? It's a chronic anemia, iron overload from repeated transfusions, splenic sequestrations, autoimmune hemolysis, or aplastic anemia. Yeah, the answer is B, because he is having skin darkenings, diabetes due to iron overload over the pancreas and other rest of the body structures. A 2-month-old baby presents with severe anemia, hydrops vitalis, and hepatosplenomegaly. The infant dies shortly after birth. Genetic testing reveals detection of all 4 alpha globin chains. Which of the following is the most likely diagnosis? Beta thalassemia major, hemoglobin H disease, alpha thalassemia trait, hemoglobin parts, hydrops vitalis, hemoglobin H disease. Sorry for repeating the thing. Sorry, which option? D. Yeah, D option is right. Hemoglobin Barts hydrops vitalis. MCQ number 5, a 10-year-old girl with a beta thalassemia major develops short stature and delayed puberty. She has been receiving regular transfusions. Which test should be ordered next? Hemoglobin electrophoresis, bone marrow biopsy, serum ferritin, and cardiac MRI. Peripheral blood smear, ECG changes to be looked for. Now the answer is C, serum ferritin and cardiac MRI, because he has been receiving the regular transfusions and has short stature and delayed puberty. So look for the ongoing complications. MCQ number 6, a 20 years old man with beta thalassemia intermedia presents with worsening anemia and gallstones. He is not transfusion dependent. What is the next best step? Blood transfusions, splenectomy, hydroxyurea therapy, iron supplementation, or intrathecal methotrexate. He has worsening anemia and is developing gallstones, which is basically a marker for his non-splenic function. So he would be needing a splenectomy. MCQ number 7, a 5-year-old child with microcytic anemia has normal iron levels but increased hemoglobin A2 on electrophoresis. What is the most likely diagnosis? Iron deficiency anemia, beta thalassemia trait, sickle cell anemia, alpha thalassemia minor, hemoglobin H trait. What could be the answer? It's a beta thalassemia trait, as microcytic anemia, normal iron levels but increased hemoglobin A2. MCQ number 8, a 15 years old boy with beta thalassemia major is considering curative treatment. What is the best option? Lifelong transfusion therapy, bone marrow transplantation, hydroxyurea, regular folic acid supplementations, or splenectomy? It's a thalassemia major. Keeping in mind, we would like to do a bone marrow transplantation. MCQ number 9, a newborn is diagnosed with hemoglobin H disease. Which of the following findings is most expected on hemoglobin electrophoresis? Increased HbF and absent HbA, presence of hemoglobin BARTs and HbH, elevated hemoglobin A2 and decreased HbA, predominantly HbS, predominantly Hb beta. Answer is presence of hemoglobin BARTs and HbH. A 12 years old boy with thalassemia major has been on blood transfusion since infancy. He presents with fatigue, joint pain, and hyperpigmentation. Lab tests show ferritin more than 3000 nanograms per milliliter. What is the best management? Start iron chelation, increase blood transfusion, perform a bone marrow, prescribe high dose folic acid or high protein diet. The answer is increase the blood transfusion, as he is having more signs of anemia and he is a thalassemic major trait. Along with that, his ferritin levels are very much onto the higher side. So this is the key for our discussion, and at the end of the presentation I would like to thank you all for bearing with me and cooperating. Assalamu alaikum.